Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Vrindavana Dham. Jaya Radha, Sama Sundar Radha, Sama Sundar Radhi. Jaya Gaura-nitāi, 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 Jaya Gaura-nitāi. Nitāi Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitāi Gaura. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. कलिपान हरिनाम संकीर्तन की, श्री भगवद गीता की, प्रभुपाद की, सामवेद भक्तवृंद की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। So Hare Krishna, this evening we are reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter number 3, verse number 13. Yajña-śiṣṭāśinaḥ santo, yajña-śiṣṭāśinaḥ santo, mucyante sarva-kilbiṣaiḥ, mucyante sarva-kilbiṣaiḥ, bhuñjate te aghaṁ pāpā, bhuñjate te aghaṁ pāpā, pacanty ātma-kāraṇāt, pacanty ātma-kāraṇāt. Yajña-śiṣṭāśinaḥ santo, mucyante sarva-kilbiṣaiḥ, bhuñjate te agham pāpā, pacanty ātma-kāraṇāt.
Yajña-śiṣṭāśinaḥ santo,
mucyante sarva-kilbiṣaiḥ, bhuñjate te agham pāpā, pacanty ātma-kāraṇāt.
Yajña-śiṣṭāśinaḥ santo,
yajña-śiṣṭāśinaḥ santo,
mucyante sarva-kilbiṣaiḥ,
mucyante sarva-kilbiṣaiḥ, bhuñjate te agham pāpā,
pacanty ātma-kāraṇāt.
pacanty ātma-kāraṇāt. Yajña-śiṣṭāśinaḥ santo, bhuñjate sarva-kilbiṣaiḥ, bhuñjate te agham pāpā, pacanty ātma-kāraṇāt. Mataji. Yajña-śiṣṭāśinaḥ santo, bhuñjate te agham pāpā, ye pachanti ātma-kāraṇāt. Yajña-śiṣṭa, of food taken after performance of yajña. Aśinaḥ, eaters. Santaḥ, the devotees. Mucyante, get relief. Sarva, all kinds of. Kilbiṣaiḥ, from sins. Bhuñjate, enjoy. They. To, but. Agham, grievous sins. Pāpāḥ, sinners. Who? Pacanty, prepare food. Ātma-kāraṇāt, for sense enjoyment. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Purport ki. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. Purport. The devotees of the Supreme Lord or the persons who are in Kṛṣṇa consciousness are called santas. They are always in love with the Lord as it is described in Brahma-saṁhitā 5.38. premāñjana-cchurita-bhakti-vilocanena santo sadaiva hṛdayeṣu vilokayanti. The santas, being always in compact of love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the giver of all pleasures, or Mukunda, the giver of liberation, or Kṛṣṇa, the all-attractive person, cannot accept anything without first offering it to the Supreme Person. Therefore, such devotees always perform yajñas in different modes of devotional service, such as Shravana, Kirtana, Smarana, Archanam, etc. And these performances of yajña keep them always aloof from all kinds of contamination of sinful association in material world. Others who prepare food for self or sense gratification are not only thieves but also the eaters of all kinds of sins. How can a person be happy if he is both a thief and sinful? It is not possible. Therefore, in order for people to become happy in all respects, they must be taught to perform the easy process of saṅkīrtana-yajña in full Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Otherwise, there can be no peace or happiness in the world. Om Jnānatimirandasya Jnānanjana-śalakaya Chakṣurunnamitam Mena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadāmayam Dadāti Svapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sriyuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parijana Sahitam Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Kṛṣṇa Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitam. Jai Sri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktarinda. Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is one of the very important verse in this third chapter. So here the Lord is giving analogy that how the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. So here what we see, the theme of this verse is that the devotees, they get freed from all sin. So what we see in material world, basically the mankind today, if we see in one sense, all over the world, like recently I was hearing, like this one country, Dubai, every year they waste food worth 9,000 crores. This is a recent survey. So whereas there are many other countries where people, even they don't get one-time food. There is like one country very, very poor, Somalia. You must have heard. So there, people, practically the country is so poor, the people, they get some food from United Nations Relief. So 5 days in a week, and they have to go a long way just for the food. So in one sense, what we see in today's world, these two categories of people are there always. Those who are, like in Bhagavad Gita, Kṛṣṇa explains, Dvaimā purushyau loke. Those who follow the scriptural regulations and those who don't follow the scriptural regulations. So here Kṛṣṇa is explaining how the devotees, when they partake, so whatever the devotees they do, yat karoshi yad asnasi yad jihosi dadasyat yat tapasyasi kaunteya tad kurushva mad arpanam. So they know everything what is to be done. So whereas material world, what we see, people just they are living like other animals. What they think, everything is for their pleasure in this material world. And we see, especially in today's society, so whatever comes in the market, new varieties of from fruits to many other things. So these people who are more or less atheistic and materialistic, they want to enjoy that stuff first. So in one sense, what we see, Prabhupada here explains that because they eat food for devotees, he explains, which is first offered in sacrifice, and thus they experience real peace and happiness. So the peace formula is also given in Bhagavad Gita. Bhoktaram yajña tapasam sarva-loka maheshru sruhad sarva-dehinam gyatva mam shantim richati. So today's world, more or less, why there is no peace? Because people, they are living in ignorance. Especially today, what we see, material world, almost we are connected by IT. Throughout, there are almost 198 countries as per UNO. And we see more or less material world, even if there is a rise in human population last maybe 50 years. So the earth is giving still hope against hope. If we see during the time of King Pruthu, that time Mother Earth had stopped giving everything, because what Mother Earth told King Pruthu, that these people, they are completely sinful, they don't deserve anything. But because King Pruthu, he was very liberal, so somehow what he did, he convinced Mother Earth to give foodstuff to the people in that period of time. So Prabhupada explains, those who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment are verily eat sin. So this is what is happening in the today's material world. So people, there is one saying in Hindi that one should, एक को जो है जीने के लिए खाना चाहिए, खाने के लिए नहीं जीना चाहिए. So similarly in the English term what we see, so practically most of the people, they today live just for eating. And in olden bygone days, people, like Ayurveda explains, one who eats once a day is a yogi, one who eats twice a day is a bhogi, one who eats 3 times a day is a rogi. Now 3 plus, those who eat beyond 3 times, they are called maharogi. Now you can imagine today, people practically, I travel a lot, like in a month I travel 2,000 to 3,000 kilometers, especially by train, and I see people, just they rise, they eat, again they go to sleep. In train, you can imagine from early morning 6 until night 12, so people are eating between 8 to 10 times. So one time, I was coming from Goa to Bombay, and there were a couple of women, they are elderly women. So one lady, she was telling others, she was telling that yes, we should eat every 2 hours and should take the medication. So this is what is modern living. So they are just living for eating only, but they are not understanding how much sin they are accumulating. So here, if you see, this verse explains that basically most of our acharyas, they explain in this regard that this verse mentions because the devotees, they eat food offered to the Supreme Lord. So in that sense, they don't get sin. So because what we see, this material nature is the energy of the Lord. Maya dakshana prakriti suyate sacharacharam. So material nature, it is giving whatever we need from our birth until the last moment of our life. So there is no dearth of things, but only depends how one is utilizing the things given by the material nature. So as per Varnashrama in Vishnu Purana, it is mentioned that. So here today's verse basically explains yajñāt parmano netra lokoyam karma bandhana. So Prabhupada in one lecture he quotes from Vishnu Purana that Varnashrama cha vata purushena paropuman Vishnu aradhya pantha nanyat dosha-kāraṇāt. What he explains that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is to be worshipped by a proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashram. There is no other way to satisfy the Supreme Lord. One must be situated in the institution of the 4 Varnas and Ashram. So now today, because here this verse mainly deals with yajña. So as per Vishnu Sahasranam, there are 12 meaning given to the word yajña. And if we see the Sanskrit, each word has as many as 8 to 10 to 12 meaning. Now you must have heard in Chaitanya-Charitamrita, ātma-kāraṇāt. Anyone knows how many these things Lord Chaitanya gave examples for ātma-kāraṇāt verse? ātma-kāraṇāt verse, nobody knows. He gave as many as 59 different definitions. ātma-kāraṇāsya munyo. So here Purport quotes premāñjana-cchurita-bhakti-vilocanena santo sadaiva hṛdayeṣu vilokayanti yam śyāma sundaram achintya guna swarupam. Those who are devotees of the Lord, so they are self-satisfied. Like Chaitanya Charitamrita is one verse, bhukti mukti siddhi kami sakli ashanta Kṛṣṇa bhakta nishkama ataeva shanta. So material world, more or less, people are bhukti, mukti, siddhi, kami. So they are never satisfied. So here Vishnu Sahasranam explains 12 meaning of the word yajña. So I'll just go through this list. So first word is yajña, means the sacrifice for the Supreme Lord. So the second word is yajñapati, master or enjoyer of the yajña. This comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. Then yajva means performance of sacrifice for like a king or any person who does the yajña. Then yajña anga means one who produces all sacrificial items. That is the Supreme Lord. There is an example given of Lord Varaha when he shaked his body. So from his body, whatever the water came out, so that from that water so many varieties of herbs were produced. Then yajña-vāhan means performer of sacrifice. Then yajña-bhud, that means protector of sacrifice. Then yajñi means where all yajñas end. Yajña-kṛṣṇa means organizer of yajña. Yajña-bhuk means enjoyer of yajña. Then yajña-sadhana, by which one attains supreme destination. Then yajña-kratu, that means terminator of yajña sacrifice. Then yajña-guhya, one who is hidden behind the yajña, that is the Supreme Lord. So there is one nice verse in the Purana. It mentions 5 times yajña, where it is mentioned yajño yajña purusham chaiva yajña-śiṣṭa yajña-bhāvana yajña-bhuñjate pañcakātma yajña-śiṣṭo harisvayam. That means here it is explained that the Supreme Lord Kṛṣṇa is the main enjoyer of all the yajñas. So here it is mentioned that the 5 meaning of yajña means the first is yajña, the Supreme Lord. Again, yajña purusha means the again Supreme Lord. Yajña-śiṣṭa means also Supreme Lord. Yajña-bhāvana means again the Supreme Lord. And yajña-bhokta also means the Supreme Lord himself. That means here it is mentioned whatever yajña is done, it is done basically for the and a pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So also what we see in the end, some karmis also when they do yajña, in the end they chant one mantra in which they take the name of like Lord Gopal. So here also in Bhagavad Gita 4.33, Kṛṣṇa explains about different kinds of yajña. It is not there is just one yajña. So yajña is classified in different things. Kṛṣṇa explains Shreyan Dravya Yajña, Maya Yajña, Jnana Yajña, Parantapa, Sarvam Karmat Khilam Partha, Jnane Parishipati. There Kṛṣṇa explains that the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. So here mentioned there is a hierarchy given of different yajñas. So here it is mentioned that the highest yajña is to understand that knowledge, who is the supreme enjoyer. So that's why what we see in the Ishopanishad, it is mentioned that Isha Vasam Idam Sarvam Jagat. So in this material world, everything is owned and produced by the Supreme Lord, and He is the only enjoyer. Everything is owned by the Supreme Lord. Also in the Bhagavatam 2nd canto, there is one nice verse where Kṛṣṇa and the Lord is addressed as Pati. Different Pati, Shriya Patir, Yajña Pati, Prajapatir, Dhiya Patir, Loka Patir, Dhara Pati, Patis Gatir, Cha Andakha Vrishni Satutam, Prasidatam Me Bhagwan Satam Pati. So here it is mentioned that may the Supreme Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa, who is worshipable Lord of all devotees, the protector and glory of all kings, like Andhaka and Vrishni of the Yadu dynasty, the husband of all goddesses of fortune, the director of all sacrifices, and therefore the leader of all living entities, the controller of all intelligence, the proprietor of all planets, spiritual and material, and the supreme incarnation on the earth, the supreme of all in all, be merciful upon us. So this way there are a number of verses where we find how whatever yajña sacrifice, basically it is meant for the Supreme Lord. Also in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, where Sud Goswami explains one nice verse. So he explains that one verse he mentions that Kamasya Nendriya Priti Labho Jiveta Yavat Jivasya Tattva Jigyasa Narto Yas Cheha Karmabhi. So what he explains, life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation. Since human being is meant for enquiry about the absolute truth, nothing else should be goal of work. So in Bhagavatam there are countless verses where it is mentioned that so being a human being, so who is not using his body in understanding the self, so that person is called ātma-ḥ. ātma-ḥ means killer of the soul. So in the 5th canto also Rishabdevi explains Jivasya Tattva Jigyasa, and he mentions that Parabhavas Tavad Abodha Jato Yavanna Jigyasata Atma Tattvam. That means a person who is not inquiring into the self, that person means his life is a complete waste. So in one sense, material world, people what we see, more or less in 24 hours, people they are mostly going through the life, how to enjoy life in a better way. So, but ultimately, whatever they are trying to enjoy, it culminates in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So, there is one nice pastime about how holy name is also yajña. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Ante Leela. So, one time, what we see, when Haridas Thakur, he came to one village called Fulia. So, there was one person by name Ramchandra Khan. So he was the chief of that village and he was envious of Haridas Thakur. So somehow he was planning to make Haridas Thakur fall down his position. So he was planning how he can do that. So he called one prostitute and he told her, why don't you go and debate Haridas Thakur? So she said, okay, I'll try my best. So this person, he wanted to send a constable with her. She said, no, first I'll try. Then when I need the help of your constable, I'll tell you. So this way, what happened when this prostitute, she approached in the evening twilight. So she found Haridas Thakur, he chanting, and there was Tulsi Maharani nearby. She offered prayers, obeisances to Tulsi. And she was trying to attract Haridas Thakur, so he could understand. So Haridas Thakur, what he said, I have made a pledge that I chant 3 lakh holy names. So when I finish my rounds, then only I can give you the happiness what you need. So you will have to wait until then. So this way the 3 days went by. So the 3rd day she confessed that Ramchandra Khan had sent her to deviate him. So Haridas Thakur, he told her, yes, I knew this, I could have left long back, but I wanted to make a devotee. I could have fired you the first day itself, but I wanted you to become a devotee and do the japa-yajña. So in Bhagavad Gita 10.25, Kṛṣṇa explains, yajñānām japa-yajñosmi. So Kali Kalir Dharma Harinam Saṅkīrtana. So for Kali Yuga, the highest yajña is for this age is when we come together. So in Bhagavatam there is a verse, Kṛṣṇa Varnam Tusha Kṛṣṇam Sangopanga Supashi Yajña Saṅkīrtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumedasa. That means in Kali Yuga the highest yajña is chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So here, there, in the end it is mentioned that yajantihi sumedasa. Those who are having some brain substance, those who are having some knowledge, or such people only will take to this chanting the holy name. So Haridas Thakur, what we see, he had a pledge that even one time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he sent some prasad, Jagannath prasad with Govinda. And he told, tell this Haridas Thakur to honor this prasad. So there is one criteria. Whenever you get prasad, you should honor it immediately. But Haridas Thakur, he took that prasad, he touched it to his head and he said, only when I complete my rounds, then only I will eat this prasad. So this way, Haridas Thakur, what we see, he was doing this japa-yajña. Always doing japa, and this is the biggest yajña for this age. And also in other sense what we see, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his associates, if you read Chaitanya Mangal, Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Charitamrita, so most of the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are related with eating prasad. So what prasad they were eating was directly Jagannath prasad. And oftentimes Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Advaita Acharya, many other prominent devotees, they used to invite Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for prasadam. And there is one nice prayer that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that yes, just seeing this prasad I can make out that this prasadam is being tasted by the Supreme Lord. So it is mentioned that when the Lord honors the prasad, so the prasad completely becomes, like in medical term, what they say, they completely clean some area, what they call, when they clean some area, in medical terminology, there is some word used, anyone know? Disinfection. So disinfection means completely getting rid of some bacteria or insects. So similarly, Prabhupada explains that when the Lord, he honors the prasad, so the Lord also has one transcendental infection. So like if somebody has this thing, especially in fever, there is one fever, if you take the food, you will die immediately. What is that fever? Anyone knows? If you eat some food during that fever? Yes, I can't recall now. Okay, if someone eats the food of that person, one who has the fever, so you will also get that same typhoid. So it is mentioned that if you have typhoid and if you eat, you may die because of some reaction. So similarly, the Supreme Lord has all the transcendental qualities. So when we honor the prasad, which is honored by the Supreme Lord, we also get that same qualities. That Bhagavatam explains that the devotees of the Lord, because they are having the qualities like the demigods. Yasasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana. Those who are the devotees of the Supreme Lord, because they are following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. So all the divine qualities, they come in them. So Prabhupada in the Bhagavad Gita, also in 13th chapter, he explains that leading a Krishna conscious life is yajña. He explains the best process for making the home pleasant is Krishna consciousness. He explains if one is in full Krishna consciousness, he can make his home very happy. Because this process of Krishna consciousness is very easy. He explains just by chanting this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, accepts and accepting the remnants of foodstuff offered to Krishna. So also reading some books like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. So one is doing the yajña for the age of Kali. So if we see in one sense, it is so easy in Kali Yuga. So whatever the yajña is mentioned, it is mainly for pleasing the Supreme Lord. There is one verse which explains, Yasmin tuste jagat tuste. This comes in regard to when Durvasa Muni, he visited Pandavas. So one time Duryodhan, he told Durvasa Muni to visit the Pandavas in Kamivan post-lunch. All of you know what is post-lunch means? After, when the Pandavas, they take lunch. So every day Draupadi seat took in the end. So what happened the day Durvasa Muni came in late afternoon with 10,000 disciples. So what happened? He told Yudhishthira, we are going to Yamuna for taking bath. So keep our prasadam ready. So he immediately came to Draupadi, and that time she was eating from that Akshay Patra. So what she told, now we'll have to take the blessing of Durvasa. Blessing means the curse. So now I can't do anything because I have taken the food. Once I take, then until the next day, we'll not get anything. So that time, because he was little intelligent, so she remembered Lord Kṛṣṇa, and immediately Kṛṣṇa, he manifested there. And he also told, I am also very hungry. Why don't you feed me something? So now she was in a dilemma. So Kṛṣṇa, he told, go and get the pot. So she had cleaned the pot, but still there was something stuck in the one grain, some they say, whatever it is. So Kṛṣṇa, he found that grain. When he ate that grain, what happened? Durvasa Muni and his followers who were there in the Yamuna, so what they felt, whatever they had eaten in the morning, that is not digested. So Ayurveda mentions that once you eat food, so you should not eat next 6 hours, because it takes at least minimum 6 hours to digest the food. So today people, they don't bother, they don't know all these rules and regulations. So Durvasa Muni and his disciples, what they thought the best way is to just escape from there. So this way what happened, Kṛṣṇa, when he came to the Pandavas there, he saved them from Durvasa Muni's curse. So this was basically here it is mentioned, Yasmin tuste jagat tuste. So our main purpose is to please the Supreme Lord Kṛṣṇa. Even when Prabhupada, when he wanted to register ISKCON in 1966 in New York, so the lawyer was asking him, why don't you put that International Society for God Consciousness? So Prabhupada said, no. It has to be International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Because in the Western country, they say everything God. God means hodgepodge. So whatever it is. But Prabhupada said no. In particular, he said it has to be that International Society for Krishna Consciousness means to make everyone Krishna conscious. So we have 7 principles of ISKCON we should know. So in that also Prabhupada explains to make people aware. To make aware means people of all these things. the scriptural knowledge and to chant the holy name and to teach people what is consciousness, what is any matter. This way, what we see in one sense, what we are doing, our preaching is like one kind of yajña, telling the people about the real truth of life. So, Prabhupada here he explains that he quotes that Brahma-saṁhitā. So, in material world, people do different kinds of yajña. He explains that 9 kinds of yajña. He mentions them as yajña, shravana, kirtana, smarana, vandana. So, Prabhupada mentions the benefit is that freedom from sinful life. So, most of our acharyas, they quote that in material world, whatever we do activities, there are 5 sinful karmas that come upon us. That is called panchashuna karma. So, Sridhar Swami, he explains that therefore it can be understood that those humans who perform yajña or worship the Supreme Lord Kṛṣṇa are prominent among the human species, not others. This is shown by the word santaḥ, means they are saintly and virtuous. Those who accept food after first offering to the Supreme Lord are freed from the sin acquired from the 5 areas, panchashuna yajña, in the home, causing harm to any living entity. So, they are 5 examples are given. Mortar, pestle, where sometimes extremely small insects are accidentally killed. The grinding stone, where microscopic amoebias inside the seed are ground to death. The fireplace, where sometimes crawling up things come into it when the fire is burning, puts them to death. Then the water pot, sometimes insects go into the water pot. Then while brooming, sweeping the house, might also sweep ants and many other things. So these are the 5 areas of harm in the home, causing accidental death to harmless creatures, as confirmed in Manu Samhita 3.68. Those sinful wretches who do not first offer what they eat to the Supreme Lord are not freed from any of these sins, but they are punished for them. The verily day by day they eat only sin. On account of these sins multiplying daily, they have no opportunity to attain heaven. So here this is what Sridhar Swami explains. Then Baldev Vidyabhushan, he explains those devotees, santa, the personification of sacrifice, yajña, devotees of the Lord, who after worshipping the Lord Vishnu or yajña, whose limbs are the devas, then take the remnants to maintain their bodies, are free from all sins piled up from beginningless time, sarva-kilbiṣaiḥ, which have created an obstacle to realization of Atma. But those sinful people who cook only for their own nourishment, ātma-kāraṇāt, food which is given by the Lord or sacrifice for his worship, within whom are situated the devotees as his limbs. If you see in Jagannath Puri, there is a tradition. So whatever food is offered to Jagannath first, so then that food is offered to all the demigods. There is one chief demigoddess, her name is Bimla. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he named his son Bhaktisiddhanta as Bimla Prasad. So there is a share given. Now also if you go to Barsana or Nandagam, so whatever is prasad is being offered to the deities there, especially in the afternoon. So there are many Goswamis. So they have a big list every day. Like different Goswamis, they get different days. So here what he explains that because the demigods, they are part and parcel of the Supreme, they are also given that prasad. So further what we see, he explains the food as rice which they cook is transformed into sin itself. Thus it is said that they verily eat only sin. See, he explains about the materialistic people who eat only sin every day. And this way he explains their sins, they are multiplying every day. Then Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, he explains, those who eat the food remnants of yajña, such as Vasudeva yajña, become free from all sins caused by the 5 types of violence to the living entities. As I told, the 5 violent actions, he explains, Panchashuna karma are described in Smriti. Kundani, Peshali, Choli, Udakumbha, Cha, Marjani, Panchashuna, Grhastaya, Tabihi, Swargam na Vindati. That means it is mentioned that for the Grhastas who does not, the Grhasta does not enjoy Swarga by commission of the 5 violent actions towards other living entities caused by using mortar, grinding stone, the stove, the broom, water pot. So Madhvacharya, he explains, in a rational way, Lord Kṛṣṇa is praising the saintly performers of yajña by means of worship and offering and consoling those who fail to perform such yajña. So he explains that in the 3 previous verses, this one, Lord Kṛṣṇa has elucidated the science of yajña. The Purusha Sukta in the Rig Veda, we see that Brahman is the firstborn of Purusha, offering himself as worship and oblations for the benefit and welfare of creation, by Brahma inaugurating the act of yajña. So then Ramanujacharya also, he mentions that those who prepare food for funds honestly acquire with the sole objective of worshipping the Supreme Lord Kṛṣṇa, who resides as the soul within themselves as well as within all the demigods and living entities, and those who partake of such duly consecrated food become absolved of all sins accumulated over a period of time. Also, there is one Acharya, he has given one nice antidote. He explains, the 5 acts of piety performed by twice-born Brahmins are that there are 5 piety whereby these 5 violent acts get dissolved. So he explains that the 5 acts of piety performed by the twice-born Brahmanas are mandatory. He explains, beginning with Brahma Yajña, or Vedic study, offering worship to Lord, homage to ancestors, feeding the animals, and welcoming and feeding the guest. So this is what was in the olden time. That it was a Vedic way of life, that it is mentioned that for a Grhasta, so his duty is before honoring the food, so he should come out to the door and he should then call anyone is hungry, he can take prasad. The prasadam is ready at home. So in bygone days, in olden time, there were no hotels. So people, they were dependent from traveling one place to another place. So they were just looking for if someone will call and offer some food. Like Prabhupada explains that his father, every day he used to feed 8 to 10 saintly people. But somehow he explains that I didn't have faith in these people, because after eating prasad outside, they used to go and chew tobacco, smoke bidis and all. So this way, somehow Prabhupada had lost faith in the sadhus, especially in Bengal. So in India, what we see, even in Vrindavan, there are sadhus. So they have one kamandalu, they have one bidi packet, one matchstick box. They are going from one ashram to other ashram. So they know in which ashram. There's one ashram called Chana Poha ashram, where every day they give chana and one kind of mithai. So because people have money, that they have accumulated from sin. But if you read from Garud Puran, it is mentioned that we should not take food from people who are sinful, who have very terminal diseases, and those who give money on loan, those who are very angry, from people who are selling liquor, and there are many other criteria that are mentioned when it comes to food. So also it is called Anna Brahma. In this thing, scriptures, it is mentioned that food means, Anna Brahma means, it is a mercy of the Supreme Lord. When the food is offered to the Supreme Lord, so it is completely divine. So Prabhupada explains, when any food which is offered to the Lord, it doesn't go into the category of tamoguna or rajoguna, because it is offered to the Supreme Lord. And also we should know the criteria of offering the food, because also in the 17th chapter Kṛṣṇa explains food in the mode of goodness, passion and ignorance. So sometimes people, even the devotees, they cook the way they like it, but that is not the criteria. The criteria is what Kṛṣṇa Prabhupada explains, patram pushpam phalam toyam. So he explains only that which is liked by Kṛṣṇa, that has to be offered to the Lord. Also, oftentimes some devotees, they have very tiny glass and a tiny plate. That is not any standard for offering. Actually, Prabhupada mentions that the standard for offering food to the deities is that like a 16-year-old boy, whatever he can eat, that much has to be offered. Nowadays, there are some devotees, they have their own small altar and many things, moving everywhere. So they have very tiny things, but that is not this thing. Also, food, Prabhupada explains, wherever you go and you honor the food, so you take the karma of the people. So we have to be very careful wherever you go and honor food. So that food, if it is not cooked in proper consciousness, also there are many other factors when the food is cooked, and also who has cooked. So there are so many things which carry the impact in the food. So there is a mention about the food. Just I'll go through the note. There's a jaise khaye ann vaise bane man. So that means whatever you eat, that food, that will change your consciousness into that way. So Prabhupada, he quotes in Bhagavad Gita, now it will come later on, that 3.23. So there he quotes, yes, ahara shuddho sattva shuddhi dhruvasmati sarva grantinam vipra moksha. That ahara shuddho, that is, if food is clean, sattva shuddhi, our existence is clear, then our thought process is clear. And when our thought process is clear, then what happens? We can do our sadhana and bhajan. So there are also in the scriptures is mentioned 5 types of impurities in our food. It's called artha dosha, nimitta dosha, sthana dosha, then jati dosha and samskara dosha. So these are some shortcomings. It is not that any food offered, like in Vrindavan, you'll see so many people, they are offering so many things. Very difficult to make what they are giving. So the first is artha dosha. Artha dosha means the ingredients which are given, what is the source of income? White money, black money. That is called artha dosha. So in this regard, what we see, that when Bhishma, he admitted to this thing, Draupadi, that he was taking food offered by Duryodhana. So that's why his consciousness was not good. When she was being disrobed, that time he couldn't speak. First is called artha dosha, then second comes nimitta dosha, who actually cooks the food. The food can be contaminated. So there is a story of one king Drupad. He wanted to do a yajña, so he went to 2 sages called, their name was Yajña and Upayajña. So when he went to yajña, so he said, why don't you do this sacrifice? Actually, Drupada, he wanted to do a yajña in which he wanted to defeat Dronacharya. So he said, I can't do this kind of yajña for you. So you can go to my brother. He doesn't follow any regulative principles. he can do this. So that's called nimitti dosha, who's cooking. Then sthana dosha, place where food is cooked. So where the food is cooked, if that area is not clean, then also that contaminated consciousness can enter into that food. It's called sthana dosha. Then jati dosha. This Bhagavad Gita mentions jati dosha means food in the mode of goodness, passion and ignorance. They are called jati dosha. Also, the fifth one is called samskara dosha. Samskara dosha means it's called viruddhahara, incompatible food. So especially today modern world, what food we eat, it is not a compatible means like our belly, when you put varieties of food, even your belly becomes confused. What all nonsense is coming. So here samskara dosha means, like Prabhupada gives an example, when you eat sweet rice, with that sweet rice you should not take any item made of curd, because both have different samskara. So there are 18 samskara dosha. There are different, in the Ayurveda there is a mention of 18 different varieties of samskara dosha. Like whenever you are eating fruit, you should not take milk with fruits. You cannot take honey with ghee. So there are a good number of examples given in Ayurveda. They are called samskara dosha. So we have to be very careful while taking the food. So oftentimes people get many different reactions. So one time during Prabhupada disappearance day, there was one item cooked. I don't know what kind of food that was, but the beans were put in milk cream. Milk, all of you know milk cream? So one devotee, he was getting body itching. So when you put milk in the milk, you put salt, it becomes poison. Okay? So somehow there was this thing, that samskara dosha, and it's in this food. So this devotee, 3 days he had a very tough time, because he liked that sabji, somebody concocted. So today, like India, people, they eat any kind of food, from Chinese to Italian to continental, anything. Like one time one devotee was telling, there is one pizza called chola pizza. I don't know what kind of chola pizza. So people, they concoct anything, and also people, they put so many things in the net. They put their own concoctions. But we should know that food which is cooked as per the Vedic scriptural injunctions, or what we are following our ancestors, that is the right way of cooking the food. And now, especially modern world, everything we are getting packed food from the market. Nowadays there are some hotels, 5-star, 7-star hotel. So they have cloud kitchen. Anyone knows what is cloud kitchen? Where in a cold storage, the food is cooked and kept there for months together. Okay? When you see the menu card, you order the food. So they will put that food in the micro oven and they will get you within 5 minutes. So what you think, you are getting the fresh food, but that food is cooked long back, but it is put in that cold storage. So that food is as good as in the mode of absolute ignorance. So we have to be careful in this regard. So today's verse, basically Kṛṣṇa explains that devotees who perform yajña, that means whatever they offer to the Lord in the sacrifice, especially the food which is offered to the Lord, so that food is completely free from contamination. And the second part, he explains that those who do not offer, so they are only eating sin. So material world, we can imagine a person, if a person is eating 5 to 6 times a day, he is not offering to the Lord. So we can multiply that by the age. So many sins are committing people on day-to-day basis. So it's very, very difficult to convince people, because people are living in Rajoguna. So they are just living for eating, but they don't understand the consequence. So, anyone has any query or question with regard to this today's verse? So, basically, this chapter, Kṛṣṇa explains about the yajña. So, the cycle, there are, especially these 4 verses, they explain. So, how that yajña has to be performed, how the Supreme Lord is the enjoyer. So, any question, comment? Jai. Bhagavad Gita ki, Śrīla Prabhupāda ki.